Hi everyone, how is it going? So it's been long since our last episode. Since the days, kind of had a lot going on, so it's been very tricky finding out time to record and share knowledge as per usual. But if you are listening to this, then thank you for still keeping up to date of being a part of my listeners. All right, so let's get to it. Hi, my name is Precious. Welcome to the episode of the Open Source Education Podcast, where we explore different parts of open source. And today we'll be talking about governance models. In this episode, we'll talk about the different structures in open source and how different open source projects handle governance and leadership. So, what are open source governance models? We will discuss this. Probably also drop some tips if you want to start yours, or to just probably detect the kind of models that the project you contribute to works with. So let's get to it. So first of all, we have to define what open source governance models are. This is a model which an open source project is governed and the pattern which dictates how decisions are made within the organization. In the words of Ross Gadler and Gabriel Hanganu, I really hope I pronounced that well, they describe it as the stuff that prevents an open source project from descending into chaos. And I absolutely agree with that. It's in the article titled Open Source Governance and it's in the OSS Watch website. So it's such an interesting topic because maybe you want to start open source projects. You're unsure how to lead the project. It's such an interesting thing because you have like a cool tool that you want to share with the world. You have contributors coming in because it's open. There's a lot of say and a lot of contributions, a lot of people that are involved in the project, and you want to know the best way to probably lead them or handle your project's contribution. So it's such an interesting thing to explore and to think about when you are creating a new project, or maybe you're just curious about how your project works and what it's called. So I hope this sheds light on it by the time you're done listening to this podcast. So open source models have there's a lot of lists. Some kind of summarized into three. That's there's the benevolent detector for life, BDFL. There is the Meritocracy, and then there is liberal contributions. But to give you a broader perspective, there are 7 models that exist. So we have the benevolent detector for life, like I mentioned. We have the meritocracy, we have the liberal contribution, we have the duocracy. I find that very funny. We have the electoral or democratic model. We have the consensus-based governance. We have the foundation-backed governance. Something that you'd find out throughout the course of this whole explanation is that as much as they are considered different, they have a lot of similarities. And I think that's really cool because it shows that at the bottom of it, they all try to achieve the same goal of fostering a good community for open source. So I'm going to give explanations of each of them. The Benevolent Detector for Life, also known as BDFL, and also known as the Farm Leader model, is the model where there is one leader who is responsible for how things go. Community has the liberty to obviously bring up suggestions and contribute as per usual in an open source project. But ultimately, the benevolent detector has to A-OK on it. Also, in cases where there is disagreement, everyone can come to a unanimous agreement concerning maybe a release or a decision. The benevolent detector comes up with a suggestion and theirs stand. So literally, it's one leader holding the ultimate authority over project decision, while the community can suggest and contribute. Examples of this include the Linux project, which is led by Linus Torvalds. We have Python, the popular programming language by Guido van Rossum. I hope I pronounced that well. And then there's the one by Ubuntu by Mark Shuttlesworth. So the next one is the Meritocracy. So meritocracy rewards contributors based on quality and quantity of their contributions. Decision-making authority often determined through mechanisms like voting and peer reviews. This is really interesting because it also helps like promote talent and expertise within the project. All right. Our next model is liberal contribution. Liberal contribution fosters inclusivity by welcoming contributions from anyone without significant barriers. This is great. And to be honest, this is like the one I'm more familiar with because it's like you welcome contribution, anybody can come in. Oh, I want to contribute, this is how I can contribute, and you just start contributing. You don't have to go through so much checks, balances, and as much as you probably have somebody review your work, there's no like a lot of bottlenecks involved with being a part of the program. It's really great because it prioritizes inclusivity and accessibility. And decision making is usually decentralized with an emphasis on encouraging participation and collaboration from a diverse range of contributors. So if you have a project where they are very big on encouraging people to contribute to the project and feeling like you're part of the community, there's a high chance there might be practicing the liberal contribution method. Our next model is the duocracy. So a duocracy is a decision-making authority is based on active contribution to the project, empowering individuals to take initiatives and responsibility within the community. Yeah, so leadership roles emerge naturally based on engagement and action, creating a fluid and dynamic project environment. Literally, this means that people who talk more or like actively engage in the community and in contributions are rewarded for their constant showing up, right? So decision making authority is based on active contributions in projects, with individuals to take initiative and responsibility having the most influence. So if there was like something critical or something that needs to be decided in the project, there's a higher chance of the people who are active being more considered. Also really great because leadership roles emerge naturally based on their engagement and their responsibility and action rather than like formal appointment or election. This is really cool because you know that you're being rewarded for your work, and also that whoever is assuming a leadership role is somebody who has a deep understanding of the project and understands the value and the mission and is willing to keep it going. So that's like a really, really cool way to preserve the project's relevance. Our next one is the consensus-based governance. So decisions are made through consensus among project contributors with the goal of finding solutions that satisfy the majority, while respecting the concerns of all stakeholders. This model often involves extensive discussion and negotiation to reach agreement on issues affecting the project. This one is very interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, it's very easy to see that based on this, most of these projects are very similar, and you can see that community thoughts factor in, less of who is making the decision or who is responsible for this. They try to make sure that even though you cannot please everybody, you want to get to a point where the community trusts that one, you do what is best, and whatever is chosen is something that the majority of the community can agree to. So this is made probably through asking for opinions from the project contributors, letting everybody have a say, and then having discussions, negotiations concerning a release or a decision or whatever, and in the end, bringing up a final projection. Another one is the electoral or democratic model. This part is very similar to the consensus, and I think the significant is that it kind of confused me a little bit, but they're different. So in the electoral democratic model, the community holds formal elections. The consensus will not necessarily be formal. It doesn't have to be like thought out election or stuff, but you can tell that different people's opinions are required. But for the electoral and democratic model, elections are made, formal elections where people vote for candidates to fill various project roles or conduct similar electoral processes To rectify or update project policies and procedures. Under this model, communities establish and document electoral procedures to which they agree, then enact those procedures as a regular matter of decision making. This model is more common in larger open source projects where multiple qualified and interested contributors offer to play the same role. Electoral governance also tends to lead to precise documentation of elected project rules, procedures, and participation guidelines. Elections can have drawbacks when they become contentious, distracting, and time-consuming for project members. I can imagine, right? And I think it sort of makes sense for like really large projects to have elections because they'll probably be the ones that need that. But at the same time, you want to imagine the amount of time that it's taken to creating like a formal election and getting people to pick something. And it's quite tricky because even though we know that, okay, whatever comes up in the election is public opinion, some people might feel slighted. And it's such an interesting thing to know how that would be handled within the community. So it's very similar to the consensus-based governance, but decisions are made through democratic processes such as voting or elections. And then all project contributors typically have the opportunity to participate in decision-making, with decisions being determined by majority votes, right? So you see how similar it is to the consensus-based governance. The next one, and the last one, ding, 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 is the foundation-backed governance. This is really cool because I think it gives not minor, but really small projects a chance to be a part of something larger and execute effectively. The foundation-backed model is open source being run by non-profits instead of one person having all the control, right? So open source projects are governed by organizations that provide support, resources, and oversight. This is sort of like how the Linux Foundation governs like a bunch of projects. I think it's like, I'm not sure of the number, but it's in hundreds, right? And so the decision-making authority may rest with the foundation's leadership or be delegated to elected representatives from the project community. I find this interesting because it's actually very possible for one project to have more than one model, right? You can see a project that is foundation-backed, and then you can still see them practice another kind of governance within. Probably like it's like I mentioned, so the foundations can be given the ability to delegate elected representatives in their project community, right? And then at the same time, those elected representatives can decide that, oh, this is how we want this project to work. And so it could be a liberal contribution or a meritocracy, or probably also like an election-based one while they are still foundation-backed. This is really cool because it kind of gives them the option to join a bigger non-profits to get some of their benefits, right? And so this way the project can make deals with other companies and keep going, even if some of their key members leaves. This helps for sustainability and independence. So sometimes you're probably thinking, okay, fine, you mentioned all these things. Why do I want to create a model? What's the importance of it? I think that more than anything, it gives you structure, right? It helps the people who are part of your project know exactly how this is run, and they should have certain kind of expectations. So for instance, if you have like a democracy where leadership or decision-making authority is given to people who are active contributors, if I join a kind of project, I want to know that, okay, if my goal is to get a leadership role, I want to know the steps I will take to be able to get to that point, as opposed to BDFL, if I'm not in that part, and you know that this is already led by somebody, you can't particularly reach certain levels of leadership. So it's really cool because it gives you structure, helps contributors know how your project is run, and it also helps you know how to make decisions going forward. Another thing is it creates a chance of project sustainability. So when there are people or when there's like a certain way of your project being governed, it helps everyone know the goals. And so after helping them know the goals, it helps preserve these goals because you know that, okay, if you're contributing to this is the reason why this project exists, and you try to preserve it, right? So you you make sure the goals and the reason why it was created is being worked on, and then you can hold people responsible for making these goals come alive. And you know who to also hold responsible and accountable for certain contributions or changes being made to the project. Also, there's another thing I call contributor phase. This is like when contributors trust that their contributions will be valued within the community and accepted or reviewed or rejected, like based on like merits. Like I know that I can trust that I'm gonna get a fair chance in this community, right? It helps me know exactly where I stand in the community. And it just really helps a lot when people are able to define what it is that they're doing in a project that they contribute to, and they know that, okay, their work is valued. This helps people who are more experienced come in and give their 2 cents and share their experience in the community, and can keep on growing from there. So you probably want to make a model now. Right? So if you decide, oh, I want to like create an open source model on and for my project, how do I know what to do? Right? So you can decide, first of all, you want to decide how best you want your project to operate. Do you want everybody to have a say? Do you want to be the benevolent detector for life? Do you want to have people get leadership roles after reaching a certain level of contribution, right? So once you decided that you want to document, you should document the model you have created, you decided to follow. By doing this, you have to create a governance.md file on your GitHub page, your project's GitHub page. You can easily find templates of projects online. They're actually very popular, like you can find any you want, and it's easy to follow. Make it public, like I mentioned on your GitHub page. It's an OSS project. It should not be hidden. And then follow it. That's like the most important thing. You create a model and you have to follow it. You cannot say on your governance and MD file that we are a benevolent detector for life and you run a liberal contribution structure or vice versa. People need to know exactly what they're signing up for and how it should go on, right? So, like I said, if you're planning what model fits your project best, define your project's operational preferences, document your chosen model, make it public, and most importantly, follow it consistently. Typically, in closing, I do not expect you to just find it so easy at the first time to figure out what model you want. It can be easy, but at some point it might be tricky, especially as most of them seem very similar. But for the most part, as a small project, you can start with one that is most suitable to your current situation and then adjust as you need in the future. Interestingly, these models are similar as they are different. And that is a good thing because you know that at its core, an open source project organization should be run with open source values in mind, which are transparency, collaboration, and community. So yeah, there you have it. I have tried my best to break down these models as much as I can. So most of my resource is from the OSS Watch page. I think it's actually really helpful. Then general open source guide, the website, Google, you have to use Google. And then our trusty ChatGPT and Gemini. So shout out to all those articles and all these tools. And I also like side talk. I came across a project recently that the maintainer was dying due to tumor, and they needed people who or anyone who is interested in adopting the project so that you can continue it. It's an alt text project, and apparently they're responsible for alt text even on Twitter, and I think that's amazing. So if you are open to adopting an open source project and you know that you can handle it, this is also something that is serious, so you can't just play around with it. So it's something that you're looking forward to doing. I will attach the link to the description of this, and then you can probably check it out when you can. But yes, it's quite a sad story, but it is what it is. And if you can help out, please do. So shout out to these people for creating such an awesome tool. I really, really hope that somebody really cool is able to adopt this project and give it the longevity that you will. Have an awesome day. Or nice. See you next time.